Hola amigos, yo soy su nuevo presidente, el señor Donald J. Trumpo. Your ex-presidente, el señor Maduro, is no longer your presidente. He kept talking, around though, and he ultimately found out though. Anyway, we're going to make Venezuela grande again. Mucho grande. El bigger y el better than ever before. We're going to drill, baby drill. We're going to have a big, beautiful fiesta, all the tacos you want. Mucho mariachi, sexy mamacitas, and delicious margaritas. And President Trump is going to be el DJ, okay? Muchas gracias, muchachos. Y let's make el Venezuela grande again. Arriba el Venezuela, amigos.
Alright, let me be very clear before the comment section starts hyperventilating. That clip you just watched is satire, comedy. A creative way to open the door to a story that only feels controversial if you live inside the emotional echo chamber of the modern left. But jokes aside, the headlines coming out of Venezuela right now are real and they matter. Because what just happened exposed something that Democrats, legacy media, and global bureaucrats absolutely hate. Decisive action backed by power. So let's slow this down, break it apart, and walk through it calmly, without slogans, without hysteria, and without pretending we don't understand what's happening. The facts are simple. Nicolas Maduro, long accused of narco-terrorism, election theft, human rights abuses, and acting as a geopolitical hub for hostile regimes, was captured following a precise U.S. operation. This wasn't chaos, this wasn't recklessness, this wasn't a kidnapping. This was the execution of long-standing indictments that Democrats themselves have acknowledged for years when it was politically convenient. Minimal U.S. casualties, Maduro's inner security neutralized, the message was sent. And suddenly, the same people who called Maduro a dictator yesterday are clutching pearls today. Which brings us to the hypocrisy.
President Barack Obama declared Venezuela a national security threat and signed an executive order approving new sanctions against the country. In a fiery 2-hour speech, Maduro called it proof that Washington wants to topple his government.
President Obama will be remembered in the future for this decision and his aggression against the Venezuelan people, the noble people, because the people of Venezuela are a peaceful people. President Obama, you don't have the right to attack, nor to declare that Venezuela is a threat to the people of the United States. You are the threat to the people of the United States.
Obama's executive order targets 7 Venezuelan government officials for alleged human rights abuses relating to the crackdown of anti-government protests last year and the recent arrest of high-profile opposition.
Let's pause right here. That was Barack Obama, not Trump, declaring Venezuela a national security threat. That was Democrats imposing sanctions. That was Maduro himself accusing the U.S. of trying to topple his regime. So spare us the fake outrage. The only difference today is who had the spine to follow through.
Trump actually does what the Democrats only talk and promise to do. And then once he does it, they condemn him for it.
The first time we are fighting and losing a war on our own soil. Let's go after the drug lords where they live with an international strike force. There must be no safe haven for these narco-terrorists, and they must know it.
He brags about all these things he wants to do or is doing, but his actions belie his words. Maybe the best metaphor was his claim to bring democracy to Venezuela. There was a big policy there. It flopped.
Maduro, who I've met, is a dictator, plain and simple. The Venezuelan people need our support to recover their democracy and rebuild their country. We should be leading the international effort to confront the massive humanitarian crisis in Venezuela.
The Biden administration made a deal with Maduro. No one talks about this. He made a deal with Maduro. Here was the deal. Maduro asked that his nephews, convicted drug traffickers, be released from U.S. prisons. He asked that his chief money launderer, his money man, his bag man, be released from U.S. custody before he stood trial. In exchange, he promised to hold free and fair elections. He got the nephews back, the drug dealers. He got the bag man back, and he never did the free and fair elections. They stole the elections. They suckered Joe Biden. They're not going to sucker Donald Trump.
Why should Maduro take your threats seriously? And
He can do whatever he wants. There's no answer. He can do whatever he wants. If he wants to do something, if he plays tough, it'll be the last time he's ever able to play tough.
These people are not accusing Trump's actions because they're wrong. They're accusing Trump's actions simply because it's Trump that did it.
This is the pattern, and it's always the same. Democrats talk tough, promise action, signal virtue, then quietly cut deals with dictators. Trump says it bluntly, acts directly, accepts the backlash. And when it works, they condemn him because it worked. This isn't about morality. It's about Trump derangement syndrome.
Who voted for this? Who said, hey, yeah, go on in there and do this? Because originally, wasn't it, he was concerned about the drugs coming in and out, and yet he pardoned like a giant kingpin. And so what is this all about?
Your question, who voted for this? Mm-hmm. The people in South Florida. The Venezuelan community, the Cuban American community, the Nicaraguan American community voted for this. And for us, this is a very, very happy day when we see a dictator who has been part of oppressing and abusing the Venezuelan people for 25 years. When we see him in handcuffs and held to some sort of accountability, it brought me to tears. It brought me great joy.
Now listen, when Ana Navarro breaks script, you know something serious happened. The Venezuelan community knows exactly what Maduro represents. So do the Cubans, so do Nicaraguans. These are people who've lived dictatorship, not theorized about it on podcasts. And they're celebrating. Let's put numbers on this. Over 7 million Venezuelans fled their country. Not for vibes, not for aesthetics, but because socialism collapsed their economy, crushed dissent, and turned survival into exile. So when Democrats demand restraint, what they're really asking is, let the suffering continue quietly.
Democrats, I hope you know you lost the Hispanic vote for generations. Testing the capture of Maduro and asking for his release has offended every single Hispanic voter that there is in the country. Every Hispanic voter knows somebody or has family members from Venezuela or South America. Everybody knows how horrible the dictatorship of Maduro and Chavez has been for Latin Americans. You just keep proving to everyone over and over again that you don't know what you're doing, that you don't care about anyone. You only care about your optics and what it means to be opposed to the Republican Party.
If you are not from Venezuela, you better shut the up. I've seen a lot of videos of gringos trying to explain Venezuela to Venezuelans. You don't even know the difference between Venezuela and Mexico. You can't even point a Venezuelan a map. You don't know what is to live in starvation. You never saw a family member dying because you didn't have the medication, while the members of the Chavismo are walking with Rolex in their hands. Do you want to know how many people died trying to come to America, going through a jungle? Do you want to know how many women were there? We are 8 million of Venezuelans who have left Venezuela. You don't know what is to live like that. You are too freaking busy eating your Starbucks with almond milk, you motherfucker. I have a question for you guys. Where were you when they were killing us? Where were you when they were killing students who didn't have any weapons? You were too freaking busy drinking your Starbucks with oat milk. So you better shut the up and take Venezuela out of your filthy mouth.
That right there, that's not a rant. That's a political obituary. When you side with dictators out of partisan spite, you don't just lose elections, you lose trust for generations.
All right, listen here, sugar tits, because if you're going to pop up into my comments spouting off, you better have your facts straight. So if you don't, I'm going to hurt your feelings. So Adrian here says that it's been made clear that Maduro was kidnapped because of oil and that America's trying to grab oil contracts that it's lost. And other countries better stand up or their rare earths are next. First off, he was captured, not kidnapped, because he wasn't the Venezuelan president. He was a dictator that stole the election in July of 2024. And he had an extraditable U.S. indictment against him for narco-terrorism. But anyways, let's get to the receipts. So the United States is the largest oil producer on Earth. We produce over 12 million barrels per day. We are a net exporter of petroleum products. And let's be clear, Venezuela produces heavy crude oil. It's expensive, it's dirty, and only a handful of U.S. refineries can even process it. So this is not the oil that we want or need. But you want to know who does want that oil? Russia, China, and Iran. Because for them, Venezuelan oil doesn't just mean money. It means strategic flexibility, it means sanctions evasion, and it means military endurance. Because energy equals military capacity. And modern militaries run on fuel. So when China, Russia, and Iran secure oil outside of Western control, they reduce sanction pressure, free up capital for weapons and R&D, and they increase force protection. And under Nicolas Maduro, Venezuela became a sanctions evasion hub, using shadow tankers, ship-to-ship transfers, and false flags. They were cash poor and oil rich. And Maduro traded crude for political protection. And China saw that as a massive win. Because China doesn't just buy oil, it locks in discounted crude, debt leverage, and strategic influence in the Western Hemisphere. And in turn, that strengthens China's ability to sustain a blue water navy, project power into the Pacific, and apply pressure on Taiwan without immediate energy constraints. So was it about oil? Sure, just not in the way that you're claiming. This was about cutting off funding to hostile regimes, not America grabbing oil for itself. So next time you want to try to debate me, bring facts, not your feelings, or else you're going to end up in the fetal position crying for your mommy. It's just fun. Have a day.
Notice something? Facts calm the room. Feelings set it on fire. This wasn't about America stealing oil. It was about cutting off hostile regimes from energy leverage, sanctions evasion, and military endurance. Adults understand this. Children scream imperialism and log off feeling virtuous.
You know what's funny? The only people that I see complaining about what happened in Venezuela is dumb black people complaining about Trump. My partner is Venezuelan. He owned a sign shop here, a pretty big sign shop. He's really successful. His mother lives in Venezuela. And I have about 3 or 4 other partners. Thomas is one of them that's from Venezuela that have businesses here in the Houston area. And they're all celebrating what just happened. Now, how is it that people that's from Venezuela that still live there and reside there is celebrating, but the black people here is all upset with Trump? Well, y'all priorities is all messed up. You can't fight for yourself, but you mad about what's going on with somebody else.
I'm gonna be honest. This part stings because it's true. When people closest to the pain are celebrating, but spectators are outraged, something is deeply misaligned. At some point, you have to ask who's informed and who's just emotionally conditioned.
Don't say anything negative about the president. Just pray for him. Because God is using that man outside your understanding. You can only understand Donald Trump if you read the Old Testament and see how God used prophets to destroy. So guess what? On one side, Donald Trump is doing God's will, while at the same time, he's also producing the very vengeance that's going to cause people to attack us in the future. But it's ordained that way. Okay? They are dancing so much in Nigeria because Donald Trump went over there for one reason and brought it with the United States military. He said, oh, you want to kill Christians? Wonderful. We're going to kill you. And we sent a bunch of military people over there and they just started knocking down terrorists like you do at the bowling alley. He said, this is return for what you're doing to Christians. So the Nigerians are dancing. Then I woke up this morning and found out that Donald Trump then bombed Venezuela and kidnapped the president and his wife and brought them back to America. I was like, what? You take the president and his wife of Venezuela and then put them on a helicopter and bring them back to Brooklyn. This is crazy. But guess who's rejoicing? You want to know who is rejoicing? The Venezuelans. So that should tell you something. Why is it every time, all the people talk about this man, but every time he does something, the people rejoice. And so you're making decisions based on emotions of what you think. You're not making decisions based on how God uses men. When you see how God is using this man, he fits so easily into scripture when God gets ready to judge evil. And the men that he always uses to judge evil are always crazy.
I won't add much after that, but I will say this. History shows us something uncomfortable. Evil rarely collapses from negotiations alone, which brings me carefully to Africa. The world watched Rwanda and President Paul Kagame destabilize Eastern Congo for decades. Millions displaced, millions dead, endless dialogues, endless summits, endless statements. And what did they change? Nothing. The lesson here isn't violence, the lesson is sovereignty. A nation that refuses to defend itself decisively, strategically, unapologetically will always be managed by outsiders. Power respects clarity, chaos feeds on hesitation. And whether people like it or not, the Venezuela moment reminded the world of one uncomfortable truth. Order is restored by those willing to bear the cost of enforcing it. I hope you hear this, President Tshisekedi of DR Congo, because I know your people have. That's not politics, that's history, and this is The Chat. We out.
And if you really can't take it, become a hermit.